how hard is it for you to let go, or how hard was it to let go and start to actually look at your business instead of it just being you?
Yeah.
It's starting to be a practice. Georgia's laughing.
I am a control freak. Like, I put my hands up and I say, at the start of the process, I was a control freak. And it was because I'd done every element of the business myself, and I knew how I wanted things to look, or I knew how I wanted things to be presented to clients. So if I had different presentations, I knew how they needed to be made up. And having someone else in the business, which I could rely on, but it was baby steps, right? It was difficult at the start, but so glad I took the kind of leap of faith, and now, we are where we are. But it started off kind of small tasks, and now we're on, like I said, kind of all elements of the business. But it was difficult at the time, relinquishing control.
Has it had a positive impact on the profitability of
huge,
the practice? Yeah.
Massively. Because if you look at the, like you said, we're multi-jurisdictional, right? So we operate in so many different parts of the world. Let's take Australia for an example. In my opinion, it's probably the most highly regulated jurisdiction that we operate in. And that is a full-time job within itself, just managing that Australian process, focusing on it as a core part of your business. And we have a large amount of assets under management in Australia. Without Georgia's hard work, knowledge and experience, and her being able to commit time to jumping on the compliance calls, speaking to the Australian, I wouldn't have time to do it, along with all the other areas that we focus on. So things like that massively increase the profitability of our business.
Yeah, I love it. In the UK, some of the most successful practices outside of like people who set up a business, right? Whether they're ARs or whether they're directly authorized, the most successful ones was a financial planner and a paraplanner.
Yeah.
So they come in together, or a financial planner and a really strong operations manager who also does power planning. Yeah. That's the best combination. So I think when you look out here and you think, well, why aren't people doing that? Why isn't there, as it gets more and more technical, more and more compliance issues and everything like that. And Christ, we've got multi-jurisdiction. We're going into more jurisdictions. It becomes really, really quite, it's an organised job. You have to be super organised.
Yeah, and I think like I said, Chris was probably the first person that I knew of to have a paraplanner, and me and Moheen at the time were talking about it, and we're like, just seems like a lot of money to be kind of putting aside towards an additional resource. Like, you could do it yourself. And then we started utilising that paraplanner a little bit, and then we're like, hold on, this actually frees up a lot more time to do better things. And we continue to kind of grow into that model. And now if you look at it, I couldn't imagine the business model without a paraplanner. There's just so many more regulatory requirements globally that you need someone on your team to fight your corner with you and to continue to kind of grow your business. So I think that role's evolved massively. The international space hasn't caught up with the UK model, where paraplanners are a lot more common. But it's definitely a key part of the business. And it's not just business processing, it's client relationships. So my clients having an additional person to speak to in my absence. Like, my pet peeve is if you email someone and you get an email back, I'm out of the office for a week, and there's no one else to contact, and there's no one else that you can reach out to who understand who you are. So my number one rule with clients is you'll get a response within 24 hours within any query. That might be a case of, look, it needs to go to tax, or it needs to go to legal, or it needs to go to a different department, but we'll get back to you. And we collectively ensure that happens with all our clients.
Georgia, do you find when clients are then handed over to you and you're delivering that, I would class it as like a after advice service, or part of the process of the service, yeah? Do you feel that you have a different type of relationships with the client that Kareem might have? Is there things that you recognise, or opportunities, or different types of discussions do you have? Do they respond differently to you?
I think it definitely depends on the clients. Some of them he's had for years, and I'm always going to be kind of just the paperwork girl for them, right, which is fine. They've grown used to him. They trust him. They don't want to speak to anybody else. And sometimes a lot of them, maybe they only want to speak to him once or twice a year, in which case they don't really feel the need to speak to me that often. We don't really have much opportunity to build a relationship. It's more of sort of like an email relationship. They know who I am. They see my emails, they reply to it. That's kind of it. I would say more so probably with the clients that we've onboarded whilst I've been working with him, and some of his sort of existing book, you do definitely build. I would say my relationship is probably a little bit more casual with them as opposed to professional. I'm not the one delivering the advice, and they know that.
Yeah.
So they can kind of respond to me a little bit differently. Also, I contact everyone weekly who we're doing business with, so they hear from me at least once a week. I'm never not in their emails. It's constant. Or it's phone calls, or it's organising this or that, or actually we need this doing or that doing, or how's this going for you? And naturally you learn things about them, like they're going on holiday this week or their daughter's having a baby. You learn these little snippets from conversations that maybe he's not got time to have with them that I'm having on a regular basis, which creates a little bit more of a rapport for me to have with them. And then I would say when you're doing fact finds and stuff, my approach is probably slightly different than his. His is kind of a lot more.
I do miss info on fact finds, and that's my pet peeve. Like, I'll go through a fact find and she'll come back to me and say, you've missed this and this and this. So she's a lot more thorough in certain fact find instances than me.
Yeah.
Which just means that sort of I'll maybe niggle a little bit more at points where someone would be like, oh, it's kind of just like this. I'd be like, okay, but what is it actually? Or, okay, and then I might think, okay, I've just had this and this, so I can maybe like put 2 points together and go, well, maybe previously, like, for example, you used to have a property and now you don't. So where's that cash? And they might have forgotten to tell me about it, or they might have invested that in something else and forgotten to mention it, because to them, we might not have spoken to them for 6 months. So for them, it's a new normal. But for me, it's a change. Whereas that can start I can then come off that call and go, okay, so now actually he's got this, this and this changes the situation. Is there anything we can do there? And then we might have a discussion off the back of that. And then going forward, it might open up a new opportunity.